Welcome to Talks and Sips. I am your host with the most, Jayfoxx. Tired of being at lame-ass parties with small talk and having to just endure all the small talk and having nothing really good to say? Well, look no further. You are at the right place. Here at Talks and Sips, yes, here, we provide you with informationally funny 411. And today we're going to talk about waves. But I want to preface with this. Have you ever been at a dinner with your family or at this aforementioned boring party with the boring small talk? Yes, we've all been there. And, you know, people just kind of hang out with their plates and then the plate kind of just stays there, kind of like the mic. It's just here. And then 10 minutes later, you get up with your plate and you go get food. Yeah, I've been there. And some people might call that eating in waves. Those aren't the type of waves we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about different types of waves. So, without further ado, a jingle. Ready, guest?
Let's do it.
You might know who this guy is, or you might not, but whatever. Here we go. If David Lantos had no ocean across the USA, then he'd probably be soaking all the livelong day. But aren't you glad we have oceans from here to Timbuktu, shredding with a perfect hairdo, surfing USA. David Lantos gone surfing USA. Hi, dude.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, not well. Thanks for coming on the show.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I was like, what song's gonna encompass him, sorta, his story?
You know, and the funny thing is too, like the Beach Boys are actually from Hawthorne, where I live right now. So that was honestly as good as it can be.
I try my best. I really just go through the guest Instagrams and go to the very first picture, and I stalk and I look closely and I zoom in. And I go, that's what they're about. So I just figured this was perfect for you.
It was perfect.
Okay, so what are you drinking? What is this cup? It looks so fun.
This is a Christmas present from my girlfriend's dad.
Who? Stella! She's in the room. I can't. She gets this from everybody.
First time she heard that, I promise. But she, her dad got this for me for Christmas, and I've never used it before.
I'm glad it made it to the show.
I mean, honestly, I just put it on the shelf, and when you said, like, oh, get like a cool cup, and I'm like, I got one of those.
I got one of those. I know. I always text people. I'm like, hey, get your favorite cup. And you were the first one to be like, I don't have a favorite cup.
Okay, first of all, like most of our glassware, and like, I don't know if you want to edit this out or anything, but
no, keep it.
So we have a tendency of like, if we go somewhere and if the service is bad or if someone like doesn't do us right, and it's like, well, guess what? I'm gonna take your cup.
Okay, we're not keeping this. But
yeah, most of my glassware is just like all like beer pints and everything. It's like, there's nothing interesting about that, you know. But
you're probably sitting on like a fortune. Who knows? Maybe this was like an artifact.
Could be. I mean, it's in good shape. I don't know if I want to drink out of it then.
Oh, maybe there's like some bad ghosts in there or something.
Hey, that's why I put vodka in there to desanitize it, right?
Hey.
Party time.
Okay. So what are you drinking? Oh, we know that there's vodka in there. What else is in there?
Topo Chico, my all-time favorite little drink that I like to have. If it's not a beer, then I think Topo Chicos are like perfect little, fuzzy drink that you can sip on.
Okay, so I went to the store looking for said Topo Chico, and then I realized that they had Topo Chico, and this is not an ad, but if you guys want to give me money, I'd like that. It'd be nice. Help. Anyway, I noticed that they had like Topo Chico seltzers and stuff. Also, tangent. We had just started the show and tangents have began. And you kind of made a face when I was like, hey, I brought you the other ones. And you're like, ew.
No, I like the other ones.
You do
the
like the alcohol ones?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
You get down with that?
And why not?
You just blew my mind. I thought you had like this hatred. I thought there was a story there.
No.
I thought,
Well, I thought
seltzers
I
took
thought
away
of
your
the
family or
show
something.
was more like, just sip and talk and chat. I'm like, no, we're gonna fucking party and just like.
Oh, yeah. It's whatever vibe you want to make it. Baby.
Okay, I like it. That's why I was like, because at first I was like, we're just gonna sip on things. And it's like, well, if there's alcohol in it, then why not?
Well, then fuck it, throw the Tito's in there. Make them. Okay, so what your drink? What is it called? What is its I don't know, personality? What does it do?
So I think we named him George.
George. He looks like a George.
A very, I don't know, Eastern European George.
Yeah, yeah. Does he? I feel like George probably gets up and like, I don't know, eats some hard-boiled eggs.
With a mustache.
With the mustache, and just kind of reads a newspaper and yells at people, "Get off my lawn!" Yep. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but in his past life, inside, he was a party animal.
He was. He was a full-on hippie. And then he's like...
And then he retired.
Yep. I gotta get serious now.
I'm an artifact now.
Gotta get a job.
I gotta get a job. I gotta get a wife.
Yeah, and it's serious. I didn't know there's a wife.
I don't know what's happening there.
Oh, yeah, see, he's married. He's like,
I gotta get a castle.
Gotta get serious. Yeah, actually, there's a castle in the back.
There is a castle in the back. This is everyone's life story here.
It is.
I gotta get serious.
Get married, get a house, get a job.
I gotta retire and die.
Yep.
I gotta sit on the 405 every day.
Ugh,
sorry, you've sat on the 405 on the way here.
Well, you know, it was... Considering LA traffic, it was fine.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't too terrible, and I was just like, okay, I count an hour to get here.
Some call that Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. He's fine. It's just how he is.
I just want to dissociate.
Okay. Well, here I brought this cup here for in thought of you because we're talking about waves today, and we're talking about you, and it looks like blue waves, and I'm just having a beer before I go climb.
Classy wise, have a little straw in there too. That's
a beer with a straw.
I think that's the move. That's the next move.
It's Saturday, baby. It's Saturday.
Party time.
It's holiday weekend. Okay, so in preparation to know more about your world and the World Wide Web, you know, it always gives me stuff, right? So sometimes it gives me sweets, sometimes it gives me nuggets if we're talking about food, sometimes it gives me scripture, but today, baby, it gave me swells of wisdom. Yeah. Yeah, does that work for surfers?
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, in regards to the little jingle that I just sorry, Beach Boys. Timbuktu is actually in North Cali and nowhere near an ocean, but for rhyming reasons, if it fits, it sits. But here's some surfing trivia. So since 1999, I don't know if you knew this, and you can be like, bitch, that's not right. In the UK at Plymouth University, there has been a degree course in surf science. So in the UK at this university, you can get a degree on surf science.
I think I majored in the wrong thing in Long Beach.
Yeah, what am I doing? Why did I go to Long Beach?
I mean, I loved it there, no doubt. But surf science? I wonder what actually goes into it, you know? Like, what's the whole curriculum? It's like, yeah, we're going to teach you how to roll a joint and, you know, hang out in the parking lot and, you know, just look at boards, look at waves the whole day.
How to quickly put on a wetsuit when it's already wet or when your legs are already wet.
No, putting on a wetsuit is struggle. Like,
it sounds annoying.
Well, when you get out of the car and it's like, you notice that, like, the waves are good and you go to the back of your trunk and you pick up your suit and it's like still wet and cold from yesterday. Yeah. And there's just like, oh, like everything just like leaves your soul and you just become so unmotivated. But then you look at the ocean, it's like, oh, but it's so good. So it's like you have this like existential crisis within yourself. It's like, should I not? And then most of the time you do.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the beauties in it that like you're willing to do so many things just to like have 2 hours out there in the waves and just like have fun with people, you know?
I'll do it. So how long do the tangent, because I know nothing about this, how long do those suits like take to dry?
It kind of depends on the material and the thickness too. Some of the new suits now that they are manufacturing, they are, you know, they dry within a couple hours.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, depending on that, but I would say like about a day if you don't leave it in your car. That's the key, I think. Although I did have a wetsuit that I left in my car like multiple occasions, and like the next day was like the driest that I've. Well, not the driest. Well, okay, considering like I left it in my car soaking wet, it was pretty dry.
Okay. So that was like a better suit then.
Well, it had its ups and downs. Let's put it that way.
You're like, I got it at the Goodwill. Okay, it was a bargain for the price.
How's the budget?
I'm not rich. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
I have discovered that a lot of people, or the record of this is, for one surfboard, 47 people stood on it. That's the world record right now.
Yeah.
How?
So you've been to Huntington?
Yeah.
They literally built this board that's like, I mean, it has to be. I mean, it's huge. They have it literally displayed on the side of this building.
Oh,
like,
really? That one?
Yeah, it was that one. So it was. They were trying to build a whole like world record of how many people can you like fit on the surfboard.
surfboard.
And I think they even put like some dogs on there too, which I'm like,
so
I'm kind of sad they didn't mention that. Like, come on, what about the puppies, you know?
Yeah, they were, so you think it was more than 47? Or you think
If
altogether?
you count the dogs, maybe, I guess.
Ooh.
Question.
A new record is out there and it's waiting. Okay, so another thing in preparation to talking to you today, apparently there are rivers in England that you can surf at? Rivers?
Yeah, there's also I think in Munich, there is like this infamous river that, I don't know what they did with it, like the whole infrastructure of it, but they probably built like a little bank where as the river goes through, it just kind of like pitches up.
Oh.
And, people stand on each side of the river and you just literally jump in on your board and you do it. But there's also like places in Idaho where they do that.
Where they're man-made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Apparently the ones that I'm talking about here, they're rivers that for some reason just create a backflow on their own or something. And then they call those tidal boards.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I've seen those, yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, if you think about it, like nature is just like so unique on its own. Like, the weather changes all the time, the environment changes all the time. So it's like, I don't know how often that it happens. It's probably like one of those novelty waves. It's like, it's like 3 times in a year. And it's like, you have to be there in the right time at the...
They're like, hey, Dave, get over here. You gotta get to the river. You have like an hour to do this, man.
And I'm like 16 hours away from there.
And I'm in class. Thanks, though. Thanks for thinking of me.
It's like, that's so nice.
Okay. This is probably the best news that I discovered out of everything that I read, trying to acclimate to your world, is that dogs can surf and enter surfing competitions.
I don't know that was a thing.
But the past 6 years in Huntington Beach, they have an annual Surf City Surf Dog. Say that 5 times. Annual Surf City Surf Dog. Annual Surf City Surf Dog. Annual Surf City Surf Dog.
That was 4. Come on, keep going. Annual Surf City Surf Dog. There you go.
Apparently, the contest actually raises a lot of money for animal welfare organizations. Someone pass me a tissue. It's so beautiful. Little doggies can compete with each other. And then the money they make from this competition goes to more doggies.
Why don't humans do that?
Why don't humans do that? Why did the dogs have to do that and not
Seriously. We should learn from them more.
Okay. So apparently there are little fun swells. This is TV related because what are we doing? We're filming, we're recording. So these are little fun swells that I discovered, and it's basically the first recorded use of surfing the web, which you got to do to listen to this, was in 1992. Oh, apparently saying channel surfing came as early as 1986.
So they just literally you flipping through channels?
Yeah.
And they call that channel surfing?
Yeah.
What about couch surfing? When did that come in?
I didn't get that. Google. Hey, Siri.
Yes.
When did they create couch surfing, the term?
Duh.
I found this on the web. Okay. I found this on the web.
They're
When did
fighting.
they create couch surfing the term? Check it out.
Wikipedia says. I like how my watch and my phone are fighting with each other.
I mean, they just want to serve you, It's like, I must enter this.
Yes, peasants. This told me nothing. I don't know. But if you guys know, let us know, because I don't know. Do you have any favorite surf movies?
Yes. There is my all-time favorite, Big Wednesday. It is made in the 60s, and it's about 3 friends growing up at the beach and just kind of like going through their life. And because it's the 60s, like, Vietnam is like kind of in the picture. And there's this scene that they're trying to like dodge the draft. So they're showing up to the recruiting center, and one guy is dressed up as a hobo. The other person is dressed up as like a gay guy. Cause like, back then it wasn't cool.
Weird.
I know. And then the other person, like, they literally take a crane to his shin to like smash it to like create this like, bulb in there to like make it seem like he's injured.
Oh
so
my
like
gosh.
People would come up and it's all like fairly true. Like I talked to people like down in the parking lot. They're like, kind of like went through that. And it's like, yep,
Yeah.
people did that.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, the commitment to the bit, man.
Well, it's just like, hey, like I don't want to go to war. It's like, I don't blame them. I probably would have came up with some weird stuff like that.
Commit to the bit. Break your own legs.
Yep.
Don't go to war.
But that's one of my favorite ones. It's really cool to like how they captured like growing old and, you know, getting more responsibilities while he's still trying to like surf and like live with that same lifestyle. Cause
Yeah.
you know, you kind of have this like bohemian, like laissez-faire, like, oh, I don't care. Like, I don't want to have a job or like do the whole 9 to 5 thing.
Yeah.
To like, they start losing that and they becoming adults and now they have like a family and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool how they like picture that. And, you know, I think more people should see it.
That's awesome. Well, for people that don't know, Dave and I know each other from climbing world. So we are privy to Alex Honnold. We've seen him at the gym. And so it's really funny because he kind of did like this interview where they're asking him about certain climbing scenes in, I think it's Point Break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just like,
the new one.
and he just rips it apart. He's like,
Yeah.
no, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But isn't there a crazy surf scene in that film as well?
You know, I think it's been a minute since I've seen the new one, but yes, I know there's like one when they're like towing into this like huge wave, and I think they even broke that down. I think Laird Hamilton might have broken that down. And that looked legit, and you know, my view.
As a surfer.
That's generous, thank you. But yeah, I remember when the climbing scene came on, I'm like, why would you climb a waterfall? You know?
Right.
Like, that is the most slipperiest surface that you can potentially climb on without a rope
Right.
to begin with, too. I'm just like, this just seems insane.
This is ass backwards, but also it's funny that you say that because now you know that people are ice climbing like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and that's also like counterintuitive or counterproductive. You're like, hold on. So you're gonna climb this with a hook thingy, and your shoes have hook thingies or pointy thingies. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the names of things. I don't know. I'm
And
not
it's
an
also
ice climber.
cold while you're
And
doing
it's
that.
cold. But I'm sure you're like your body. It's like, you know, when you work out, your body heats up.
True.
But that's still a long route of like having to struggle against elements. One thing is a dry rock, another thing is a wet one. Okay, if I had to say I had a favorite surf movie, I would say my fave surf movie is that Surf's Up movie with the penguins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
I love that movie. It was amazing. And then I remember growing up, like doing the research for this, I was like, oh yeah, there's this OG flick called Lords of Dogtown. And I remember like, it made me feel good. I was so inspired. I was like, maybe I'll start surfing. And I was like, no, I'm not. But good for you guys.
You know, I would say like watching that movie and that's what motivated is like seeing locals beating down on other kids and everything like that. That's impressive. Like I would be like, maybe I don't want to live in Venice in the 70s. I'm like, oh.
There's just like a raw, like, this is the culture out
Absolutely.
here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just authentic all the way. There's no like sugarcoating any of it. You're just like, these guys are kind of assholes.
Yeah. Well, and
but they own it.
totally. And then it was really cool to like really connect the whole like surf and skate kind of like origin story that like, you know, this is how it kind of like started as just like, you know, guys wanting to surf when the waves are flat.
Right.
And, you know, they just found like pieces of concrete and, you know, it was pools back then that they would just like trying to like imitate the same kind of turns that they did on their surfboard, like on concrete. But
Right.
the cool thing was that you get to do those maneuvers like over and over and over because concrete doesn't change. Waves do.
Waves do, and waves aren't consistent like that.
No,
right.
unfortunately.
Okay, so here's my last little tidbit about films. I'm sure you know the story about Bethany Hamilton.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, how she lost her arm to the shark. For those that don't know, that are listening and watching, Bethany Hamilton lost her arm to a shark snack attack, I call it. And she still came out on top. She's still a champion. And she's awesome. And she kept on surfing. She'll probably keep on surfing till the end. Have you ever had any close encounters with any sea creatures out there, or perhaps maybe Cthulhu himself?
Not that guy, but
Not that guy.
not that guy. Luckily, I feel like if I would have, I wouldn't be here. But who knows? Maybe if I got lucky.
Maybe.
Who knows? Well, as far as like shark goes, the closest that I've been was like probably like not as close as you and I, but maybe like 3 feet added to it. So
That's still pretty close.
It is,
Oh
but-
my gosh.
I mean, the nice thing is that, you know, me working in the aquarium for like, you know, 4 or 5 years, I think, because I started in high school and I finished in my sophomore year of college. You know, it really made me like understand them and just like really study them, like what goes on with them.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend Eric Martin who helped me with that.
Hey.
You know, because of that, like, you know, no doubt I was scared. like you definitely like, you know, your heart drops and it's like, oh, you know, it's like an apex predator like 5-6 feet away from you.
And you're like in his house.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, did you pay rent yet? And I'm like, no. I'm like, sorry.
He's like, that's gonna be your thumb.
He's like,
your thumbs in plural.
I mean, they're pretty big, so it probably lasts me a month.
They're nuggets for him.
They are. You should see my toes. Ooh, worse. But yeah, so I was like definitely scared, and you know, but I didn't start panicking because I knew that like, well, he's probably gonna check me out if anything. There's also like other people around me, so we kind of like have the numbers against them. And yeah, like I just expected like super docile. I just came by, like, you know, checked the people out and just literally went back out. But
where was this?
I'm in Hemp Pier.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a year that we had like, I would say 5 or 6 like little juvenile white sharks that would just like come by, and literally the whole summer they would just hang out.
Oh, they were curious.
They were, yeah,
because they were babies.
They are, because they're at that age. It's like, actually, that's when like they're probably like the most dangerous. Like white sharks are.
Really?
Like, once they're like big, like 15 footers, they're like, we don't want to deal with you. You know, like
you're a messy eat.
Yeah, it's like, nah, you're too chewy.
You're too chewy.
But the little ones, because they're so like ADD and they just like, you know, want to pick things up, and they mostly feed on like stingrays and bat rays that are, you know, in the shallow water where most of us surf. You know, they tend to like, and it doesn't happen a lot. Like I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 like shark attacks a year, I think.
Yeah, they're very rare.
They're super rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, the chances of you like getting even like tapped by a shark in the water is like more likely you're gonna get hit by a cow.
Oh.
Like it's
fuck
super.
them cows coming at you. So the shark that you saw, was it a little guy? Is that what?
Yeah, it was around like 8 feet. Again, like in the water, it's kind of hard to tell because it's a little bit distorted. But like people on the pier, they were measuring it like compared to like the boards that we're sitting on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
My friend was like sitting on a long board, and her board was, I think it was like 9.2 or 9.3. And the shark seemed like a little bit smaller than that. So we're like, okay, well, based on that, we can like guesstimate it, you know?
Yeah. I'm glad that knowledge is out there for you guys, and that you have to be privy to that even before you get in the water.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like it's a living environment out there. Like you said, like we're in their houses for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
splishing, what is it? Splashing and splishing, splashing and splishing.
Yep. They're just like flapping around. But yeah, I think sharks are like the last things I'd be afraid of if I'm out there. People a little bit more scary now with like summer coming in and everything, you know? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why. And it's hot now for sure. And so what are like the best time of days for you guys to be out there? But now that summer, like you guys are more afraid of booping people, right? That are just out there.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even that, but it's just like, you know, I think waves are kind of like a finite number, especially like not necessarily here in Area County, but you know, with the abundance of people and the amount of waves that we have, like sometimes it does get, you know, tricky. So definitely like communicating, just like making sure that like you're not doing things that you're not supposed to. So it's like, if you see someone on the wave, like you're obviously like not going to go right in front of him or like right behind him or anything too. And if you see someone's, you know, on the inside, like you don't want to just like take off just for like, oh, this is a good wave, but like someone's in front of you, like you're going to run them over, like it's not worth it, you know? So
you might as well abort.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think surfing is kind of like a selfish sport, you know, overall, because it's like y'all like, oh, like what about my waves and like all that?
My waves, bro, those are mine.
Exactly. But, you know, you still have to like keep that in mind. It's like, well, you know, it is pretty dangerous, and like people do get hurt quite often.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it, you know?
I also feel like now that you've mentioned that, like, for example, we climb, right? So at most you can injure yourself or you can injure your partner if you're belaying them, right? You're the person with the rope. But surfing, that's like the Wild West, man. If there's just like 10 people in that little general bubble area that you're in, I can't, like, to me, it doesn't calculate in my head how it can get so crowded in the ocean.
And you know, the funny thing is too, like sometimes it's not even like other people that are hurting, or sometimes it's like your own equipment. Like I got hit like on my face over here. Like you can probably still see the scar somewhere. Actually, it's on my nose over here.
Barely.
Little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
But it was literally my own board that.
Oh,
just,
you
like,
booked yourself?
Well, I kicked out, and then I came up, and the board just like slingshotted towards me, and it just the rail, which is like the side of the board, just went bam.
Oh.
And like I'm paddling. Like I felt like, a little bit of, a sting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it probably hurts a little bit. And then I'm paddling out, and like my friend Eric, he's like, holy shit, you're bleeding. And I'm like,
Oh,
what?
no.
I'm like, oh, whoops.
Not my
I'm
face.
just like, it's my moneymaker.
That's not my moneymaker.
Like, come on.
Have you seen those tangent? Have you guys seen, or have you seen the when what's it, Family Guy? What's his name?
Which one?
The main guy,
Peter?
Peter.
Yes.
When he gets injured.
I was like,
That
feel
was
that.
you
Yeah.
that day.
well, here's the thing. Like, this was during November, December, so wintertime, water's cold. So like I get hit, cold water just numbs it. I'm like, that's the best thing you can do. Is like instant ice, just
Yeah.
So like, oh, I don't feel anything. And then, I mean, literally, if he would have not told me that I was bleeding, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Maybe like I start tasting it, I'd be like, oh yeah.
Yo, what's that salty flavor?
A little bloody. Is it type negative? Typo negative?
Typo negative.
Love it.
You're from Hungary, yes?
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Hungary. I knew that. But I was looking at the map of Hungary, and I was like, there's like a singular lake there, like one.
Yeah.
And it's called Balaton?
Close enough, yeah.
How do you say it?
Balaton.
Balaton.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, are there waves in this Balaton?
Only waves I've seen is when I flushed the toilet.
Oh my God. So like, where does this like love and obsession for it come from?
I think growing up, like I always liked being in the water.
In the water in Balaton?
Not just there, but like any pools, really.
Oh, okay.
So literally, like the weekend would hit, or like during the summer, like you were off of school, so it's like, oh, you get your ass to the pool, go outside. We would spend a lot of time just like at pools, and I'm not talking about like public pools like here, but like kind of like water parks, but like not like a lot of slides and everything.
Yeah.
I see that's more of a thing in Europe, and especially like in Hungary, there's like a lot of like hot springs and things like that, and they build like, water areas around it, I would say. So we'd spend like a lot of time there in the summer, and like even then I would just, dive for coins, or like you just wanted to be in the water the whole time.
Yeah.
And then moving here when I was 16, so that was like almost like 10 years ago.
You were, wow.
Yeah.
See, I knew, I was like, I was trying to remember your story, and I was like, yeah, like how did his life go in that direction, considering, at what point you came here, which, hell yeah, dude.
Pretty recent still, if
Yeah.
I think about it.
And then you guys went through the whole legality and did all of that, and
It was hard, took long.
I heard that. And then you have to know, is it true? Like you have to know all 50 states' capitals?
They didn't ask me that.
Okay.
But I did get thrown out like 5 questions or something it was on my citizenship.
Do you remember any of them?
I do.
Ooh, you're like,
they still
PTSD.
haunt me. Yeah. No, like, okay, so there were like some easy ones. It's like, oh, like what's the, capital of the U.S.? I'm like, oh, Washington, D.C. Like, that's easy. And she's like, okay, like, who's your senator for California? I'm like, Maxine Waters, maybe? I don't know. Like,
Well, because there's so many, like my auntie,
Mm-hmm.
she got her paperwork and everything done later in life. She was, I don't know, 60, 70.
wow, good on her. That's impressive.
And so like, she was like, yeah, she showed me like the handbook that she had to study, right? In their crazy ass handbook.
Yep.
And she was like, I was like, dude, if you tested American citizens on this shit today, we'd all get deported, bro. There is so much shit in there that we all do not know.
It's hard, and I mean, and I don't want to say it's like common knowledge, because I'm like, well, how many times do people ask like, who's your senators?
Right.
It's like I vote, like I want to vote. That's why I want to become a citizen. I'm
Right.
just like, come on, I'm trying to do the right thing.
Stop making this so hard.
But the funniest thing was like, I became a citizen in January of last year. 2 weeks after, jury duty. Uncle Sam was like, get your ass to court.
That
Seriously.
quick. That quick.
Yeah.
He's like, because a lot of people aren't showing up. So, hey, you really want to be here, right?
I swear to God, I was just like, this is like, it could have not been anyone else but me. It's like, I'm like, wow.
How long were you in jury duty for?
So I was in school, like, and I'm still am. And so like I called them and be like, hey, like I'm in a doctoral program, like I don't have time for this, like I'm so sorry, like when I have the time I would love to do it, but I can't now, please, excuse me. And they're like, no.
Rejected.
Seriously,
demoted.
like
no.
right off the bat at first. And I'm just like, but wait, like I look at my schedule, like I can't, like I'm literally unable to spend like, you know, because depending on the trial, like sometimes it takes like multiple
Yeah.
days even, you know. I'm just like, I'm in an accelerated doctoral program. Like, I do not have the time for this whatsoever. And they're like, okay, yeah, fine. But then we're just going to give you another date. And I'm like, ugh. So then they give me another date that goes into my next term. And I'm like, I still can't do it.
This doesn't change when you change the date, my guy.
I'm
I'm
like,
in college.
Just because you pushed it 2 months, I'm still going to be doing school in 2 months.
Holler at me when I graduate.
Please.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Like, this is like one of the like dreams that I had. Is just like, you know, being on a podcast, like talking to
just
people.
having fun.
Yeah, that's it. Just like chit chatting.
Not studying for
No,
hours.
I know, man. Ugh.
Which, by the way, fun fact, tangent. You guys see the coasters that we've been using forever? These are
I'll
his.
show mine too.
Yeah, he made
This one's
these
see-through.
with his hands. Show everybody your hands.
They're already dead hands. Meaty claws.
Okay, yeah, you inspired the honeycomb addiction on this show, and I hope to one day be able to make a ton of these coasters with you and like legit sell them to people. That'd
Make
be
it
really
a manufacturing thing.
Yeah. Woo. Jury duty aside,
Yeah.
you sound busy AF.
Always.
How are you still keeping surfing alive within your experience currently? And two, like, how did you even start in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I'll go with the start then. So obviously, like, my grandparents living here, my brother and I would visit every summer. And during those summers, this is like the biggest pool a kid could be around, you know? So I'm like, this is awesome. You know, like I have to drive 10 minutes and I'm at the beach and like I can be in the water the whole day. Like it's amazing. And, you know, with being in the water, I would see people like surfing or just like, you know, even being on boogie boards. I'm like, oh, like looks kind of fun. You know, like I'd be like to try it out. And then I went in the garage and like, I don't even know how they had this, but they had like this really old, like beat up boogie board. That's like, it's literally like from the 70s or 80s.
Like out of styrofoam or?
It was like completely out of styrofoam, even
my
had
gosh.
fins and it's like super wide. It was like literally like this wide. Like they don't make them that wide anymore. So I'm like, and I asked like some of my friends that are like more involved with like bodyboarding and they're like, yeah, this is like 80, 82, 80 something. But I'm like, well, none of them surf. So like, how did they get?
How do you?
You know,
but
I'm
like,
like-
how do you even know?
I'm
you
like,
know?
where did you get this, Grandma?
Grandma? What is this from? El Sancho? They say.
Yeah,
that
right.
is-
It's like a secret surfer
A secret-
admirer.
Grandma.
She's been naughty. But yeah, so like that was my first experience on a water vehicle, watercraft, you know? And I had a lot of fun on it. And, you know, I later found that like people actually put like fins on their feet and then you get to like bodyboard, which, you know, I didn't know
Oh.
about that back then.
I didn't know about that. I was 30 years old when I figured that out.
There you go. The more you know.
The more you know. I mean, we're learning stuff, aren't
Hey,
we?
that's what life is about, right? And then I saw like people on surfboards and I'm like, oh, like maybe that would be like the next thing. And my grandma was babysitting at this family at a time and the dad had a surfboard that was just like sitting in the garage. Like I think he used it maybe like 5 or 6 times or something. And then he was just like, it's not really for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like what do you do with that? And like, oh, could I, you know, borrow it or something? It's like, sure, I'll sell it to you for $100. I'm like, let's do it.
Oh.
And it had a ding on it that we had to get fixed before, you know, putting in the water because it wasn't watertight. So we got that done. I'm just like, okay, sick. Like this is gonna be my thing. Like, I got a wetsuit. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it.
Just like Shad, I say this almost every other week. Just like Shad says, just do it.
Just do it.
Make your surf dreams come
That's
true.
Yeah, I was like, okay, like I know most people like do this in the morning. So like I started going out to the beach in the morning and shout out to my grandma for like driving me down there because this is before I had my license. So,
Shout
like,
out to the grandma.
out to
Lantos grandma. Grandma Lantos.
Grandma Lantos. Sometimes she would like stay in the parking lot and just like read or just hang out while I was like out there like trying to figure out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you know, it's hard. Like it's one of those things that it requires a lot of grit for you to do it and like put a lot of effort and time into.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes even after a year, like people are like I still haven't figured it out. And that was like in my case too. Like I think it was like
You feel like there's a level of finesse, and even
yeah.
like you have to like. I feel like there's like math involved for some reason.
well, the thing is too, it's like the environment the unit's constantly moving, you know, like there's no wave that's exactly the same. So like compared to like any other thing, so like comparing it to climbing, you know, like sure the rocks could break, you know, most of the time, but you could go to a gym and you can practice. You
Yeah.
know? Surfing is like, I mean, now with the innovation of like wave pools and everything,
Yeah, wave
like
pools.
you could like manipulate it, but the majority of population who do that, they don't really have access for that.
Right. Expensive
So-
hobby.
I know it is.
Ugh.
So it's one of those things that you kind of like have to go out and just kind of base on luck. It's like, oh, maybe today the waves are going to be good and the wind's not going to be gnarly.
Yeah, it's going to be nice to
heavy.
me today.
Exactly. But, you know, the chances of that happening is like not too much. The whole innovation of like surf cams and everything, it's a little bit easier because you just go on your phone. It's like, oh, yeah, it looks kind of good. I guess I'll go. But like before that, and, you know, I'm talking and I'm like, you know, back in my day, you know, you have to drive down to the beach.
You had to go to the beach 10 years ago.
But, you know, talking to all the older guys are just like, yeah, you know, you would just drive down and sometimes, you know, people would drive all the way from inland.
Wow.
Because living on the beach, like, wasn't as developed as it was now. Like, there wasn't as many people living here. So
Yeah.
people who lived in, like, let's just say, like, Bakersfield. No, they would drive, like, hours just to go surfing. And it's like, you know, you show up and it's flat. And it's like, well, I just drove, like, you know, 3 hours.
To get here.
But then you just didn't care because it's like, you know, I'm here already.
I might as well.
And I feel like because of that, people were definitely more like stoked on surfing because it was like you really had to work for it. Compared to now, it's like you go on your phone, it's like, it doesn't look too good. Maybe I try tomorrow. You know?
That's insane. That's insane because the ocean is so vast and frightening, and there's a Cthulhu down there. And it's like, let me just check this app real quick. No, the swells aren't good enough today.
It's like, it's not par.
It's not. No. Yeah, I actually found a website. It's like 10 terminology or terms that you need to know, like surf terminology.
Which one? What was the one you heard?
So here's one. Da-da-da-da. Okay. There's yard sale.
I've actually never heard of that.
There is rails.
Rails are, yeah, that's a thing.
Potato chip.
Yes.
Grom.
Yes.
Stick.
Yes.
Cook.
Kook?
Kook.
Yeah. A cook.
Hollow. Or
Hollow, yeah. I think it's probably like describing the wave. It's like hollow.
it's
like,
hollow. Snake.
Yep.
And the line.
Mm-hmm.
So you only didn't know yard sale. Do you want to know what yard sale is?
Yeah. What is that actually? I've
According
never heard
to
of
the World Wide Web, yard sale means to fall, limbs flailing in most undignified manner possible. And you would use it as, hey, is that guy leaving already? The waves are just starting to go off. Yeah, if you just thrown half a dozen yard sales in a row like he did, you'd probably be going home too.
I mean, I think wipeouts are like more proper.
Right, does that-
I've
yeah.
heard yard sale. Like
Also, it never even said wipeout. So how
What?
credible is this list?
I wouldn't trust him.
I'm not trusting this website. So you created your own little business, and it's not little, but you legit were fixing people's surfboards.
That's right. Yeah.
So how do you even start that?
Again, shout out to Eric.
Eric!
Whenever you get it damaged, like you obviously don't want to just get another one.
Right.
You want to fix it. And
What? This is America. We throw everything away.
That's not. That's not capitalism. What do you mean trying to fix it? Just get another one.
Just get another one.
And also like being on a budget as a student and as a kid, I'm just like, well, I only have so much money that I can spend towards a board and even to spend towards fixing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're learning, you do wipe out a lot, or as we learn, have a lot of yard sales or
You
something.
have a lot of the yard sales
yard
that guy was.
Where you bought your surfboard, your first one probably.
At the yard
At
sale?
the yard sale. But you know, as you tend to do that, like there's chances of you like damaging your equipment.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, because it's so delicate that you have this foam core on the inside, and you know, water and foam, they're not the best matches.
No.
You know, everything just gets soaked up in there, and then if water gets trapped in there, it could get like kind of moldy. And it
Is the foam to keep it a certain weight?
It's just to keep it lighter, like more buoyant, you know. Like back in the day, they all had wood boards, and obviously that was heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like 100 pounds boards, and yeah, if that thing hit you, I mean, people had full on concussions back in the day when they had those wipeouts. So, and it's just a little bit easier to work with foam, like as far as like shaping it goes,
Yeah,
and just
molding
you know,
it. So you were like, dang it, my surfboard is jacked.
yeah, it's like that's it, it's done. I need to get it fixed, and then you know, taking it to surf shop over and over and over, and then spending like $50, $100, $150, another $100. I'm just like,
You're like my friend Danny. My friend Danny, because she crafts, she's super spooky.
Nice.
But she's like, what the fuck? I'm not going to pay blah, 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 blah. I can do it myself.
Exactly.
And that's literally what she does with everything.
Yeah.
She just like makes her own shirts and hats and, you know, decks out her roller skates. So is that what kind of happened to you?
Kind of,
You're
you
like,
know.
"Ugh, this is getting expensive."
Yeah, and also like growing up, I always liked working with my hands. So like back in middle school, like tech decks were like this huge thing. You know? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember technically.
But like my dad and I were like built these like huge like skate parks and stuff like out of
fun.
wood, and you know most of the time like he was doing the work and I was just like watching like okay like here, this is what I want to make it, and then after a while I'm just like oh well, maybe I'll try too, and then that was like my first introduction to like any kind of like woodworking and just like working with my hands, and then after that I just you know, I loved making like little necklaces for like my mom for like her birthday and stuff like that. And, you know, like sweet little things as a kid.
Aww.
Doesn't cut it anymore, unfortunately.
She's like, where are the real presents?
Like,
what is this trash?
Dinner, please? No.
Can you take me to the Cheesecake Factory?
No, she still has like actually like some of the paintings that I made and like some of the artwork that I did in high school like in her house like on the wall. So I'm just like,
Aw.
She loves me.
I'm the favorite son because I know you have a brother.
Yeah. Yeah, so that kind of like started things off of like me working with my hands and
Yeah.
then meeting my friend Eric who...
Eric, shout out to Eric
shout
again.
out to Eric again. Who's this like... You know, you look at him, I mean, the guy's, I would say, barefoot 90% of the time. Like, I don't think he owns a pair of shoes whatsoever.
Aww.
Yeah. It's like long blonde hair, like down here, like really scruffy. It's like a rat's nest, like 24/7.
He's a surfer at heart.
Absolutely. And then, you know, he works at the aquarium at the Roundhouse.
Oh.
And, you know, he's been there for like years and years and years and years and years. And it's honestly like the perfect scenario you can have. Like, you're literally on the beach, like on the water, literally on the pier. And it's like you get to check the waves like all the time. So, like, he has it figured out. Like, kudos to him.
Kudos to you, Eric.
But he makes his own boards. So when I became friends with him and I had a ding on my board, it's like, oh, yeah, just, you know, come over, I'll help you fix it. I'm like, okay, sick. And then he kind of like showed me how to work with resin and like different materials and fiberglass and things like that.
Isn't it amazing? Tangent. Isn't it amazing that the social media videos that were trending like a year ago maybe were the resin videos?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, bruh, I've been at this for over... How long have you been doing it for?
Oh, 20... Well, okay, so I made the business 2018. But yeah, so that's when like I started getting like more and more people, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to put like a name into it, you know, so people can find me. But the goal was never to like, oh, like I want to get a shop and like I want to do all this and this and this and that.
Yeah, it was...
It's a lot of work, you know.
What's the name for people to, if like say they have a surfboard and they want to...
It's Dingy Daves Ding Repair.
I love it. Dingy Daves.
Dingy Dave has a nice little chime to it.
Yeah,
it's
I
actually
love
my
it.
friend Cody who like came up with the name.
I love it.
But yeah, so I never wanted to make like this huge things like, oh, like I want to rent out like a place and like have it set up and everything, because it's pretty like tolling on your health, you know.
Oh.
Like you're working with fumes and dust like the whole day, and you can have like the best, you know, filter system ever, but it's still gonna affect you.
I saw those photos because you're doing it out of like your garage or something, right? Yeah.
Basically. It's pretty rough. I mean, I have a respirator on like, you know, the whole time while I'm in there, because like I want to make sure like I live past like at least 55.
Yeah. Don't become a first assistant director because you'll die the following year.
Good to know. But you know, back in the day, like in the 60s and the 70s, like people didn't care.
Yeah.
Like they would just have their hands like covered in resin that's like, you know, basically oil and super like harmful on your health, and then just wash their hands in acetone, and then acetone getting into your bloodstream, and that messes with your liver.
I love how almost everything that we do as people can kill you.
Absolutely.
I mean, everything's gonna kill us anyway, but like in last week's episode, my friend, she's a baker, and she's like, yeah, people can get baker's lung.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
No.
Just trying to make cookies for people. What the fuck?
No, it's all the yeast and everything. I'm guessing they're working. Like it can't be all good for you, man. Like
and you're like, oh yeah, you know, resin and oils getting in your blood. God forbid you got to cut.
And the thing was too, you know, like back then, like they didn't care about wearing a mask or anything like while they're working with the
just
fumes
like today.
And everything. I know, right?
Ooh,
it's like in Orange County, huh?
Tough crowd.
When you think about this like surfer who works in the factory and like, you know, making surfers, like, oh hey dude, and it's like,
hey dude,
it's not because he's stoned, it's probably because he had like a freaking brain tumor from all the fumes and everything that
he's just not naturally high on life.
Yeah,
he's just
it's
high
like I'm
on
like,
fumes from work.
you know, it's one of those things like I seen so many of the old guys are like still working in it. They're not all like that, obviously, but the ones who like passed away, like they most like had some like contraindications with that.
Oh, shit.
So it is like pretty hazardous on your health, and it's kind of gnarly.
Staying in touch with what's happening out there, even if you're not like making it a career and a big like business or whatever, it's super important.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, like technology and everything, and that definitely has like, you know, ups and downs to it for sure. I feel like because surfing is like such like a soul like craftsmanship that goes into like making a board for like another person, it kind of creates this connection.
Aww.
Not that I build forts with people, but like, you know, my friend Mike, who's like also my mentor when it comes to these things, like it's really cool to see the joy on his face, like seeing the people out on his boards and just like, you know, it's definitely fulfilling. So like I get it why people do it. Plus like it's cool, you know, like, oh, like I shape surfboards, like that's cool.
It sounds cool,
right?
Yeah, like my buddy fixes surfboards.
Like, yeah, he fixes boards, he surfs,
He makes
you know,
them,
everything.
you know. So okay, so you don't want to do that with your life, and that's cool, but you're gonna keep doing it to keep yourself sane.
Absolutely.
So what are you going for now?
I am in chiropractic school.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
hey guys, need a chiropractor? We're all borderline scoliosis.
All herniated disc from sitting and everything
Oh,
too.
the sitting or the hunching from this.
Yep.
Everybody.
I mean, I think I dedicate my torn labrum to being like this and writing notes
Oh my
and being in
gosh.
Zoom in class and trying to learn stuff. And I'm just like,
You got to practice what you preach. So you got to get all busted up first while you go to
I
school. So
know.
then they like, what is it called? What they adjust you?
yep, adjustments. Yep. Well, I think they trying to like do that. It's like, well, now you really understand what goes behind because you feel that pain. So therefore you feel more empathetic towards the patient.
It's like when we used to work at that climbing gym and they're like, no, now you got to lead climb and you got to take the lead falls because how else will you know what people are going through?
Yeah.
And I don't give a fuck.
It's like, that's their journey, not mine.
I'm just employed here for minimum wage. Give me a break, guys.
Just trying to hang out, you know?
When will you be done with school? Like, what's your trajectory?
Well, that's going to be for another minute. I'm like
Aw.
halfway.
School's a bitch.
It is. Well, you know, I feel like it's one of those things that I hate it now, but I know I'm going to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Like even during undergrad, I'm just like, this sucks. Like I can't wait to be over. But now that I'm like, you know, in the doctor program, I'm like, man, I wish I was still in undergrad. Like
You're going to be a doctor?
Yes.
I can call you Dr. Lantos?
That'll be
Guys,
me.
I have a future doctor as a guest.
I know, surprising, right?
Wow. Okay.
It's like you never went like this guy.
He's a doctor or soon to be doctor.
Not yet.
Hey.
Almost. But yeah, I feel like it kind of gives like a nice structure to your life.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of, well, I don't want to say you know what to expect, but it's like, you know, the classes you're taking and everything. But like once you're in the real world, it's like, you know, each patient's going to be different, which kind of gives like a cool little variety into it. But then like other aspects of like, oh, you're trying to like keep the doors open and make rent. And then, oh, what about like this treatment plan? Or like, oh, what about this new device that came out? So it's like the learning never really stops.
Never.
And I feel like that's true for anything.
Yeah.
Like you should always strive to know more because the whole world is just advancing at such a speed that's like impossible
It's
to keep
faster
up.
now than ever.
Oh my God,
100%.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially technology. And just like every year there's like something new coming out. And I'm just like,
Yo,
like, it
what
can
are
be
we?
good.
Oh yeah, the other day I went to a tofu house.
Uh-huh.
There was a little robotic waiter thing. I don't know, it's an it, so you can't say waiter or waitress. But it was a round robot, and it would just hover around and come out with all the little food, all the side dishes.
Huh.
And I
It's
was
kind of
like,
interesting.
that's scary.
It is a little scary.
That's frightening.
I mean, it does raise the questions like, are they, you know, going to take over completely? But like, I feel like, and kind of like back to the whole like surf thing, like a machine shade board compared to like one that's like made by a pair of hands.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can feel the difference, but like when you pick it up, it's like you kind of know it's like, okay, like someone's like hard time and effort and love went into
so
it.
you're
you know?
gonna appreciate it that much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something to be said about authenticity that never will fail and never dies. Like people just love authentic shit, and like you can, and we're able to just smell it when it's not real and go And so that's not to say that like if a machine makes a surfboard, it's not real, but like you said, there's something a lot more special when you know someone put some time into
the
it.
soul is
yeah.
in it, that's it. That's just the
beautiful.
biggest thing.
I love that you said all that because it's so pure and nice. And now I can say I have a future doctor on my show. Yeah! Woo! Okay, so as we wrap this show, right, I like to play like a would you rather with the guests. I love putting you guys in like the most just not great situations because I love everyone. We all kind of like problem solving. A lot of people do. And so I'm like, cool. Okay, I'm going to make this hard. So would you rather surf with your first ever surfboard? Yep, the $100 one. On the highest wave ever recorded of 1,738 feet. You're like,
I don't think it would hold up on that.
your first surfboard.
Oh no.
Or would you rather be out surfing without a wetsuit and get stung by a jellyfish or two? And before you answer that question, and for those that think peeing on jellyfish stings, the internet says don't do it, and the internet says jellyfish tentacles have stinging cells called I can't say that word, future doctor. What is it?
Nematodes?
Called.
Oh, nematocysts.
Thank you. That contain venom. As Scientific American explains that the salt, electrolytes, and the other compounds in urine can aggravate the stinging cells that could still be on your skin, triggering the release of more venom and causing more pain. So you stinky people out there, if you get stung, don't be peeing on people. This ain't R. Kelly's time. Okay. He went to jail for a reason. Don't be peeing on... Anyway. Okay, so which one would you rather?
Okay, what kind of jellyfish?
I don't know. You know. You worked at the
I'm
aquarium.
like, are we talking about like a box jelly that could like literally kill me? Or are we talking about... See, that because that changes everything.
I see. This is why he's here today, you guys. Because I don't fucking know.
Because I'm like, I feel like if
Is there if and from the scale to 100, from 1 being it's okay to I'm gonna fucking die. Is there like a 3/4 section
of a jellyfish?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean even ones here in our waters, like you see them more up in Monterey, the moon jellies, and we had some in the aquarium, and like they do sting you, but like you don't even feel it.
Okay, so
whatsoever.
I want it to kind of hurt but not kill you.
Okay, so something that'll get me like kind of itchy just a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe like 5 of them sting you. So these are your options. They're not great, but they're never great. Ask everyone who comes on the show.
Because I'm like, I feel like if it's the box jelly and the whatever 1,000-foot wave or
it's 1,738
Jesus
feet.
Christ. I'm like, I think the scenario of me dying either way is just like, well.
Well, which one would you be able to solve,
The
or whatever?
jellyfish.
Yeah.
That's easier.
Okay.
I think that because I was leaning more towards that, but that's why I asked you, like, okay, how serious of a jellyfish you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not fucking with the 1,700-foot wave.
Because I'm like, well, I'm gonna die regardless, so then it might as well be on a wave, like,
Oh yeah, TMI tangent time. I'm not gonna say who this was, but I know somebody who was like, if I die, because we're all gonna die, I would love to die climaxing. I was like, okay.
I mean,
she's like, yeah, if I'm gonna die, I might as well be having an orgasm while I'm doing it. I was like,
I feel like you must have like a gnarly heart attack.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's like kind of like an Elvis scenario. It's like you just like you do so much coke and you just like strain yourself to like poo in the bathroom and just go. That's it.
Oh, another tangent. Oh my God, here we go. Okay, we're wrapping this up.
Speed round.
We're on speed round. Okay. Someone told me that people don't talk about this, but apparently the people that are like stewardesses or pilots, things like that, people that are always in the sky, apparently there's a number amount that they're allowed to fly per week because of all the altitude pressure. They could.
Seriously?
Yeah, because they're up there all the time and they're coming down, they're coming up and they're coming down. And actually, you know how there's a bunch of delayed flights and flights being canceled?
Right.
That's outside of them not bringing people back after the COVID year, not having enough people to replenish that because they can...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because even if you think about it, like most of the time, like let's say like flight attendants, they fly here, they tend to spend like a couple days like in the area they're flying into and then they go back.
So because there's a shortage, the amounts of time they're saying are less.
Okay. I feel bad now because I was just like, why can't they just have more planes and everything? Like, come on.
And apparently the last thing being that pilots, before there was a parameter of X amount of like miles they had to do to be whatever, like pilots or whatever.
Right.
And they've literally cut that from like, I don't know, somewhere like, I'm just fucking spitballing here, like from 5,000 to like 1,500.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't feel safe at all now.
Yeah. So have fun getting on the tube in the sky, y'all.
Oh, excellent.
That's some new news. Okay, all right. So you pick jellyfishes?
I do jellyfish.
You're a jelly man? Yeah. All right, that's fair.
Jelly, just like
Ooh,
the SpongeBob scene.
Fuck. We're going to have some sips of judgment because you got to be here. If you're sipping, there's a little bit of judgment that goes on. We're all human, but we're all allowed to make fun of each other. So here's a moment in time. And so you tell me if this is something that you would, like, I don't know. What's the sip of judgment of the day?
Oh.
Look at his little body just flips.
Oh, no.
So
Ouch.
it looked anticlimactic, but it was very like ouchies.
Kind of sad, actually.
You're like, I'm depressed.
Because you know that he spent a lot of money to surf that wave.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Extreme sports are so expensive.
Well, and I think that's somewhere in like Fiji or, I mean, looked pretty, tropical. So I'm like, he's probably on a boat trip.
Oh
like,
yeah, he had to get to that wave
Most
somehow.
likely.
That one.
Wow.
Wait. Oh.
No way.
No. Look. Oh my gosh.
Okay, the fact is, dude, that she was trying to hold onto that big board.
Yeah.
While like being that pitched up on that wave.
Yeah.
Usually, like the idea of those boards is that you ride them in like smaller surf because you have bigger surface or bigger drag, you can catch the wave easier.
Did that make sense to you people? I hope it did.
Sorry.
No, that's great. That's great.
But I'm
info.
like that wasn't. I mean, kudos to her. That was pretty committed. That's I would like to raise my
Cheers
glass
to
her.
you,
Cheers
ma'am.
to
You
ma'am.
committed to the bit.
That was. Mm-hmm.
So earlier when we were talking about, the worry is not so much like the sea creatures, it's more banging into people.
I mean, that I feel like you can get pretty hurt on a wave like that. Like I've seen people fracture their neck.
Oof.
Just by like wiping out wrong in a shallow water. So
Heck
it's like
no.
I'm more afraid of that than I am from a shark.
Oh my God. All right. This is where I was like, how is the ocean crowded? Here we go. That's it. Look at it. It's just so funny. Look. Boom.
That's actually like pretty normal for like a
This
summer day.
is
I would say.
normal?
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm not surprised actually. I'm like that. Like I said, it's like a normal day at El Porto.
Oh my God. Just a bunch of people banging into
I mean,
each
and
other.
like I said, like that's where you can get hurt like pretty bad, especially if the person has a fiberglass board and they just like shoot it at you, and that could hurt.
Okay, I think out of all the surf fails, which I'm not a surfer, I would never, but this is my favorite. Wait for it. Wee. That was just like the perfect like. Oh, this one's good too. While we're here, why not? And it's a slow mo.
That he like landed on his back and the board followed him. Okay, the one that he like came out and like shot on the back, like that was impressive. He like made the wave and he like kicked out and he just wanted to have some fun after it.
He's like, wee.
So like I don't count it as like a wipeout because I'm like he made the wave, but the last one I'm just like that's just sad.
That one just I mean I really love the use of what song was that? Fuck, it was
It's
I'm never
George
gonna
Michael. Is it George Michael?
The sexy sax song?
Yes.
No, it's perfect.
Classic.
Yeah, so classic. I for a long time would ask the audience like questions at the end, and then I retired, and so now I leave it up to you guys. So what is something you wished more people talked and sip about? And it doesn't have to be that serious. Some people go,
Right.
whoa, this is prolific as fuck. It could be like, why can't I find Chick-fil-A sauce at the store? Like, it could be whatever
That
you
would
want.
be dangerous. First of all, like I think my diabetes would just be like, "Hello, I'm here and I'm here to
Hello.
stay."
Hello, darkness. Hello, diabetes.
Hello,
my old friend.
diabetes. Not that I have diabetes, but I'm just saying I would probably get one real quick.
Yeah, if you had access to sauces.
Yeah. What should people talk and sip about?
Yeah. Bum 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 bum.
What's
bum,
interesting
bum,
now?
bum.
Let's say baseball. I've been watching a lot more baseball.
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 Okay, what do you want them to talk and sip about
I don't
specifically
know,
about
just
baseball?
like anything. Because
Like-
I've been watching it this year a little bit more seriously, and I've been like try to get into it a little bit more and like
Yeah.
understand it more. Because at first when I moved here, I'm like, oh, it's America's sport. you know?
Yeah.
But I never understood the rules, and I didn't really have anyone to explain it. So I'm like, whatever.
Should they have like a baseball for dummies? I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure it does, but it's kind of cool to talk about. Like people that are like want to get into it, but they don't really have like a reference to. Because also like you don't want to read about it, you know. It's like,
Nah. So what they should do is at like Angel Stadium and Dodger Stadium and pretty much all the stadiums, they should have a like. Have you ever been to a Dodger? Oh no, because people would lie. Never mind, that's a bad idea.
What?
I was gonna say they should have like a one free game day for people
Oh,
if they've
like a
never
trivia
gone.
day?
No, just like a free entry day.
Oh no, they would lose out on so
I
much
know,
money.
I
They would not
know.
want to do that. Come on, this is America. We like to make money.
Capitalism. We're not helping people learn
Especially
about
in
the sport for free.
Especially in LA. Come on, rent is expensive. People gotta make money.
How is Dodger Stadium gonna pay for the rent if a bunch of people are
know.
like they come over with their Dodgers jerseys and like, yeah, we've never been to a Dodger game.
Isn't
I saw you here last week, Federico.
Dude, that
Don't
was
lie.
Funny. I saw this like meme of like people wearing like Dodger hats. It's
Mm-hmm.
like hardcore fans compared to like went to one Dodger game, and I'm just like, I'm that category now.
I'm
I'm
the
the
one.
Dodger game.
All right, guys. So I think future Dr. Lantos wants us to talk more about baseball. So these podcasts, these baseball podcasts better be popping soon, guys. I
it
want to hear
happen.
them. Because how else is he going to learn? He can go drive to Dodger Stadium while listening to a podcast about baseball, learning along the way. He gets there, gets a Dodger dog, watches the game, goes, I know what's happening because people were talking more about baseball.
And isn't that wholesome?
So hashtag make baseball trendy again.
Make baseball trendy.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our show. Thank you for coming to the summer version of this show. And I'm sorry that people like me are in the waves while you're trying to surf. I'm just kidding. They're like, well, aren't the waves better early in the morning?
It depends like where you are. The biggest thing is mostly is wind. And usually here, at least in the morning, it doesn't tend to be too windy, but you go up north in Northern California, like it tends to be windier in the morning, and a lot of people surf in the afternoon. But then you have the sharks come out. So
Yeah. And it's cold AF, bro. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching the show today. A big thank you to Sent to Destroy Studios and Chris Bonifay for hosting the show every time that I come to his studio. Music producer Benny Martinez. Sorry I didn't use your jingle today, bro. It was a little low and I could not. And I wasn't ready. Okay. Thank you to creative producer Joshua Taylor for helping set everything up and helping with the gags. Extra equipment. The only reason you see future Dr. Lantos is because of Ted Lee Jones. Thank you to Eric Ayala for the visual graphics, as it's everything you see in social media. That's all him. And thank you, David Lantos, for being my guest this week. I really appreciate you.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Come on, don't leave yourself out of there. Come on.
I mean, I'm here. It's okay. It's all right. She's all right. And lastly, and by no means least, thank you, listeners, for tuning in every single week to the show. Make sure to catch the weekly Patreon, as this week we are gonna be. What are we doing with you this week on Patreon? Am I filming you surfing, or am I filming you like fixing boards?
Whichever would be easier, whichever you want to do.
Let's do them both.
Whoa,
That's a little
double day.
ambitious. I don't know how I can get a mic on you in the water. Anyway, that's besides the point. It's only $5 to watch him do what he does best, outside of future chiropractic work, of course. And guys, it's only like less than a cup of coffee and a quarter of avocado toast. So become a patron, please, and help your girl out, because that would be rad. Also, make sure to follow David at David_Lantos for
right.
more swell wave content. I don't know. I did not write that. I had to make that one up right now. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. And make sure to follow the pod at Talks and Sips, and myself, Jayfoxx, with 2 X's, 2 underscores. Feel free to write into talksandsips@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you and what you got to say. If there's something that you know and you want to inform me about, great. If you want to talk shit, also great. If you want to roast me, cool. Whatever, bro. Hang loose. Okay. And make sure to message the pod on Insta or any of the social medias if you're interested in merchandise, because we have hats, baby. Please buy the hats. And lastly, if you need more information, go to talksandsips.com. I am Jayfoxx, and you are?
David Lantos.
And we are out of here. See ya.
Bye.